Hello comrades! In this video I am going to reveal to you the basic formula for learning Russian and help you to understand how to learn Russian. In general strokes, of course. Let's say it will be the big picture of how to learn Russian. Let's get to it. Okay, let's look at this mysterious magic learn Russian formula. The basic learn Russian formula would be this. Learn Russian equals to time spent multiplied by intensity. So, as you see, this is a very complex mathematical equation which in its complexity is similar to, let's say, the area of a rectangle and other deepest mysteries of our time. The formula says that one's overall Russian progress equals to how much time one has invested in this hopeless venture and how intensively or effectively one studied or spent this invested time. Let's gnaw into this formula and devour it so you could understand it better and maybe even apply in practice the basic principles and the info you're about to learn in this video. First, time. How to properly measure time in studying Russian. First of all, we measure time not in months or years after you initially started to study. We measure time in hours of training. For example, I can share a secret with you, so don't tell anybody, that to reach a B1 level in Russian, it's the level when, according to surveys, most people subjectively start feeling fluent in a foreign language, takes about 450 hours with a tutor one-on-one. For a self-learner, things take longer, however, a 700-hour estimate would be reasonable in this case. Therefore, I don't know how many weeks, months, or even centuries it is going to take you to achieve that 450 to 700 hour mark of training time, because obviously if you study Russian for 2 hours a week or for 10 hours a week, you'll be getting quite different weekly results. In addition to time spent, it really matters what exactly you did during that training time. If you were going through a textbook that provided for you a chunk of theory first and then a bunch of exercises to complete after in order to reinforce that theory, that was definitely a quality time you spent learning Russian. If, for example, you simply read a textbook about the Russian language, then watched 20 YouTube videos, including this one, and then daydreamed about how you'd be speaking Russian fluently someday, that was not quality time, because the main characteristic of quality time is solely the practice component. More practice, more quality. Speaking about practice, let's discuss the second part of the formula. Intensity. While for the pure time value we can use a time tracking app, the estimation of intensity is a much trickier thing, because how could one possibly know whether they are performing well or not? The general guideline for the intensity calculation would be based on how much of the invested time you spend on exercising or practicing the language in a focused, non-distracted mode. That's basically a combination of effectiveness and efficiency. Effectiveness means doing the right things, which is the maximization of practice. Efficiency means doing things right, which is productivity. All the advice you can find in the categories such as productivity, focus, success, habits, and similar ones would excellently fit the Russian language learning within the efficiency parameter. First, effectiveness. Effectiveness means doing the right things. As being told, the right thing is to practice, which at first means completing exercises. However, in the case of a self-learner, one cannot practice without theory, right? For a self-learner, the theory is something that explains how to practice, and exercises that follow should reinforce the just learned theory. In a short time, the theory will be forgotten, but skill, which has been developed through the practice, is going to stay for a long time. So, the learning Russian procedure for a self-learner is about studying a chunk of theory first and reinforcing it with exercises after. Rinse and repeat. If you are somewhat a beginner who wants to be fluent in Russian, you need to set a goal to reach a B1 level. B1 is the main language proficiency level because after reaching it, you continue progressing mainly naturally by practicing Russian and not by learning it. That's why one of the names of this B1 level is the threshold level, because things change dramatically here. Also, this is the level on which, according to surveys, people start feeling fluent in a language. If we try to imagine the road to B1 quantitatively, to reach it you need to complete about 1500 exercises, which in the form of a textbook would be a big comprehensive 1000-page exercise book. That's not counting theory. Also, you need to develop an active vocabulary of 2500 words. There are quite many solutions and methods to travel the path to B1. However, you should understand that there are no perfect and complete solutions like full-fledged self-contained products for self-learners that will bring you to B1, because it would take an enormous amount of resources to create such. Individual authors are unable to build such resources. Even groups of authors have not succeeded very much yet. Therefore, it is difficult to say, do exactly this and you'll get to B1. However, to be fair, there are professional programs, a series of textbooks for tutors that enable seamless travel from A1 to B1 in about 450 hours. From your point of view, those would be big exercise books with illustrations. However, they would be very unfriendly. On Amazon, such textbooks would get poor reviews. However, they are not bad, they are very good, but because they are very difficult to go through on one's own without a tutor, and all the attempts I am aware of aimed to adapt those professional materials for self-learners led to poor reviews too. As for apps, theoretically an app can be such a magic pill, but not now. Apps are basically digitalized textbooks, however they can be interactive, which means they can provide immediate feedback. With feedback, for example, it is possible to learn Russian almost without studying theory. It's like studying with a tutor. The main role of a tutor is to be a feedback, therefore it's not required for a student to study theory in a way self-learners do. However, last time I checked the famous language app, it was very far from being a complete solution we might want so bad, and probably it would never become such. So it's a tool intended for beginners and will remain to be so. But theoretically, in the future, there can appear an app by a new player on the market that will be able to really teach you the Russian language, but not now and not soon. Consequently, there are no complete solutions or direct roads to learning Russian. The only one would be to study with a teacher, better of course one-on-one with a professional tutor. However, private tutors are obnoxious people because they want your hard-earned money in return. And the problem is compounded by the fact that, for example, if you want to reach even an elementary A1 level with a private tutor one-on-one, which is the shortest and the most high-quality path for sure, you'll literally have to pay for at least 100 lessons. Keyword 1, at least. Keyword 2, pay. A couple of horrible keywords. If this amount of money spread over a stretched period of time seems insignificant to you, then studying with a teacher one-on-one should be your no-brainer choice, because it's the best approach in terms of both speed and quality, especially quality. However, obviously, most people can't pay or don't want to pay for this, often both. Luckily for those people, they absolutely can learn Russian on their own. However, the side effect would be that one would have to study theory, those nasty cases, obnoxious conjugations, bloody declension, and other terrible stuff. In this case, theory becomes a replacement for a tutor. By the way, those who study with a tutor, they often learn theory very shallowly. That's why in the long run, they are going to know the related theory almost as bad as Russian native speakers. Since there are no true, complete, full-fledged solutions for a self-learner, Mumbo jumbo, or in other words, freedom, creativity, and spontaneity are unavoidable in learning Russian on your own, which basically means that you'll need different resources, courses, or textbooks by different authors. So there are a lot of textbooks that will fit you. Just use Amazon reviews, choose textbooks, and you'll be fine if you adhere to the following criteria. First, exercising is key. Your learning should be built around completing exercises and not around the theory. Complex theoretical books can be used for reference only, as an instrument to complete exercises, or might even not be used at all. Second, theory, practice, cycle. This means that theory must be reinforced with exercises. The pure theory has no value because the Russian language theory is very complex and because the theory is forgotten quickly without reinforcement. Third, from the simple to the complex. This means that you are going to go through a series of textbooks and other resources, starting from the resources for beginners and ending with very advanced exercise books later. So you might want to start from textbooks or materials that have the word beginner in the title and synonyms to this word. Also, you can use this scale because on the covers of some textbooks it is written to which level it belongs. Thus, on your road to learning Russian as a self-learner, you're going to need different resources, which means using various materials by different authors. You need to be completing more and more exercises with gradually increasing level of difficulty. The theory should be used as an instruction to action or to understand how to do things or for reference. Next, efficiency. While effectiveness means doing the right things, efficiency means doing things right. Mainly it means being productive in the broad meaning of this term. Being efficient advice obviously exists not within the Learn Russian field, but in the areas of productivity, focus, habits, etc. Thus, all the numerous materials on productivity and success, which you can find in abundance on the internet, and books apply to the Russian language too. Since learning Russian requires significant overall time investment, and since most of you cannot and would not enjoy studying for prolonged periods of time, one should focus on consistency rather than massive immediate action. For example, let's take a very famous Pomodoro technique which marvelously fits Russian. According to a Pomodoro technique, you start a timer for 25 minutes and solely focus on a task without any distractions. Personally, I can say that if a beginner studies Russian for 1 Pomodoro a day, consistently, which is 25 minutes a day, I can confirm that I can see an improvement in one's Russian with a naked eye. The more time you devote, the better, of course. However, 25 minutes a day would be a perfect spot for beginners. If you have time to implement, say, a 50-minute double Pomodoro, that would be heavy artillery. Overall, learning Russian means to be consistent with adding more and more time into your time bank, which falls under the category of building a daily habit of learning Russian. So basically, all the productivity methods would apply to being efficient in learning Russian. This topic is enormously wide, therefore, shortly, efficiency would mean being productive in a unit of time and being consistent in adding more and more time into your time piggy bank. However, in real life, we can see that some people study Russian many times faster, sometimes dozens and hundreds of times faster than others. How do they do that? And the answer is in this formula. If we take a look at the intensity parameter, that's what people are most interested in because this parameter helps to achieve the goal in less time. Magic bullets, hidden secrets, superpowers, all those things exist here. The arts of marketing and fraud, sales and deception are based on this parameter too, because this parameter would let you achieve enormous results in almost no time, at least theoretically. Here are several examples you may come across that promise quick results. A one-leg crippled polyglot crawled off his deathbed to reveal the secret of learning any language in 3 days. The trick is based on the assumption of the general public that polyglots are somewhat superhumans that carry some sort of secret knowledge which they might share. Listen to this audio program when you sleep and you'll be fluent in Russian in 28 nights. Indeed, it is much more enjoyable to learn Russian fast, doing nothing, than to work long and hard. The law of attraction helped me to learn Russian in 21 days. The law of attraction is somewhat rather popular among Russian students, and not only them. I came across it multiple times in the Russian language context, and not only it. And I think that I am going to face it in the future a lot too. Skip the years of study and jumped right to the speaking part. Sound crazy? No, it's language hacking. Language hacking is great because it sounds cool. Basically, it is an old communicative approach in a new wrapper that teaches you to speak very poor Russian in some chosen common situations, and based on this to receive a relatively fast gratification. If you want to really learn a language, the best hacking would be to study one-on-one with a tutor, for which, however, it still takes at least 110 lessons to teach elementary Russian. Also, don't forget that to speak primitive Russian, you need 800 words in your active vocabulary. So if you don't know 800 words, I suppose it would be difficult to jump right to the speaking part. Okay, all these statements fall under the intensity category and promise you a great intensity value. This hour mark will be very low and progress will skyrocket because of intensity. You can try any methods you like. However, if you fail with learning Russian during sleep, for some unknown reason, this might happen, right? Or the law of attraction misfires for some mysterious reason, or language hacking reveals that you're a bad hacker, this happens too, and even the forbidden knowledge provided by a crippled polyglot from his deathbed doesn't help, you can always join us, mortal commoners, and learn Russian in several hundred hours of training. Let's say 700 hours for a self-learner seems realistic, 450 hours with a tutor. And here is the most important thing in this video. While most people try to find some secret to learning Russian in the intensity category, the real answer lies within the time value. As I explained, for people who study Russian with professional trained native speaker tutors one-on-one, it still takes a lot of time to learn Russian. And the answer to the question of why some people study Russian dozens and hundreds of times faster than others would be simple. They just invest more time in learning the Russian language. Remember that these hours are not about the teacher and even not about how smart you are. These hours are what it takes for your brain to learn a new skill, which is speaking Russian in our case. It takes hundreds of hours. This gives us the general answer to the following question. How do you learn Russian? And the answer would be in time. I want you to understand that to learn Russian takes time for everybody, hundreds of invested hours. So the main secret to learning Russian would be to embrace long-term thinking and to create a way in which this hour score would consistently and relentlessly grow up. Спасибо за просмотр.